The judge struck the gavel once. Property division is final. Emily Carter barely heard the rest. Across the courtroom, her ex-husband, Ryan, smiled for the first time in months. He had won. The lakefront house, the investment accounts, the family business she had spent 9 years helping build. Even the antique furniture she'd restored with her own hands. Ryan walked out with nearly everything. Emily walked out carrying a single cardboard box. Inside were a few clothes, family photographs, and her late grandmother's old compass. Nothing else. Friends told her to appeal. Her lawyer quietly admitted the odds were poor. Ryan had prepared for the divorce long before Emily realized the marriage was ending. He had shifted assets, moved ownership through holding companies, used complicated legal structures that technically stayed within the law. By the time Emily uncovered what he'd done, most of the damage was already complete. She rented a small motel room on the edge of town. Every morning, she sent out job applications. Every evening, she wondered how everything had collapsed so completely. 3 weeks later, an unfamiliar number appeared on her phone. Emily Carter? Yes. My name is Richard Lawson. I'm the attorney handling your grandmother Eleanor's estate. Emily frowned. My grandmother passed away 6 years ago. I know. There was one instruction that wasn't supposed to be delivered until, well, he hesitated, until you truly needed it. The next afternoon, she met Richard inside a quiet office overlooking the town square. He placed a weathered cedar box on the table. I've kept this exactly as your grandmother instructed. Emily slowly opened it. Inside rested a brass cabin key, an old property deed, and a handwritten letter. She immediately recognized her grandmother's elegant handwriting. My sweet Emily, if you're reading this, then life probably became much harder than it should have. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Her grandmother always seemed to understand things before they happened. She continued reading. Don't waste your strength fighting over what people are determined to take. Go to Cedar Ridge Cabin. The truth has been waiting there. Emily frowned. The truth? That wasn't exactly an explanation. Richard slid another document toward her. The cabin legally transferred into your name years ago. I never knew Grandma owned a cabin. Almost no one did. 2 days later, Emily followed a winding mountain road into Cedar Ridge National Forest. The farther she drove, the quieter the world became. Towering pine trees replaced highways. Crystal streams crossed beneath old stone bridges. Finally, the gravel road ended. The cabin stood alone beside a peaceful mountain lake. It was beautiful, not luxurious, just timeless. Handcrafted log walls, a broad front porch, stone chimney, flower boxes beneath every window, now overgrown with wildflowers. The place looked untouched by modern life. Emily unlocked the front door. Warm cedar scents still lingered inside. Sunlight filtered through lace curtains. Everything remained exactly as though her grandmother had stepped outside for a short walk. Books lined handmade shelves. A rocking chair faced the fireplace. An old cast-iron kettle rested on the stove. Emily smiled through tears. It still feels like you. She spent several peaceful days cleaning, sweeping, opening windows, repairing loose shutters. For the first time since the divorce, she slept peacefully. On the 4th evening, while unpacking family photographs, she noticed something unusual. One photograph showed her grandmother standing beside the cabin many years earlier. Behind her stood a small woodshed. Emily looked outside. There was no woodshed, only a flat clearing covered by moss. Curious, she walked toward it. The stone foundation remained, almost completely hidden beneath vegetation. She began clearing away branches. An hour later, she uncovered a rusted metal trapdoor built into the old foundation. It looked too deliberate to be a simple storage cellar. The heavy door refused to open. A brass lock secured it tightly. Emily searched the clearing. Nothing. Frustrated, she returned to the cabin. That evening, while making tea, she absent-mindedly picked up her grandmother's old compass from the cedar box. Something rattled inside. She examined it carefully. The brass cover unscrewed. Hidden inside was a tiny antique key, along with another folded note. Every good compass points toward truth. Emily smiled. Of course. She hurried back outside. The tiny key fit perfectly into the trapdoor lock. A loud click echoed across the quiet forest. The heavy metal hatch slowly lifted. Cold air drifted upward. Stone steps disappeared into darkness below. Emily switched on her flashlight. The staircase descended much deeper than she expected. At the bottom, She discovered a reinforced wooden door. Mounted above it hung a carved oak sign. Eleanor's archive. Her pulse quickened. Grandma never mentioned an archive. She slowly pushed the door open. Instead of a dusty cellar, she found an enormous underground records room. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling. Thousands of neatly labeled document boxes. Maps. Photographs. Journals. Legal files. Everything perfectly organized. At the center stood an antique oak desk. One envelope rested alone upon it. Across the front, in her grandmother's unmistakable handwriting, were 5 simple words. Only opened after great loss. Emily carefully picked up the envelope. Her hands trembled, because suddenly the peaceful mountain cabin wasn't simply a place to heal. It was the place where her grandmother had hidden something she believed was powerful enough to protect Emily when everything else had been taken away. And whatever truth waited inside that envelope had been preserved for exactly this moment. Emily slowly opened the envelope. Inside rested a handwritten letter. Beneath it lay several flash drives, thick legal binders, and a leather journal. She unfolded the letter first. "My sweet Emily, if you've reached this room, then life has tested your heart. Don't let bitterness become your answer." She smiled through tears. That sounded exactly like Grandma Eleanor. The letter continued. "This archive isn't about revenge. It's about truth." Emily looked around the enormous underground room. Shelf after shelf held perfectly labeled boxes. Every document was organized with astonishing precision. Grandma had spent decades building this collection. But why? She opened the leather journal. The first pages explained everything. Years earlier, Eleanor had worked as a forensic accountant specializing in financial fraud. During her career, she quietly documented complex corporate transactions, shell companies, forged ownership transfers, and hidden asset movements. After retirement, she continued helping ordinary people who couldn't afford expensive investigations. Everything she learned was carefully archived. Then Emily noticed something that made her heart race. One shelf carried a single label. Carter Development Group. Ryan's company. She hurried toward it. Inside were several document boxes. Every file had been meticulously organized. Bank statements, corporate records, property transfers, emails, meeting notes, photographs. The earliest documents dated back almost 8 years, long before Emily and Ryan divorced, long before she suspected anything was wrong. Then she found another sealed envelope. Across the front were 4 words. "For Emily alone." She opened it carefully. "Ryan never fooled me." Her breathing stopped. Grandma continued. "The first time he visited our home, he asked more questions about property deeds than family stories. I began paying attention." Emily remembered that visit. She had laughed when Ryan admired Grandma's organized filing system. Now that memory felt different. The letter continued. "I hoped I was wrong. Unfortunately, I wasn't." Eleanor explained that over several years, she quietly collected only publicly available records and legally obtained documents. She never accused Ryan of wrongdoing. She simply preserved facts. Those facts painted a disturbing picture. Ryan had slowly transferred business assets to multiple companies controlled by close associates. Real estate ownership shifted repeatedly. Profits disappeared into newly created corporations. Every transaction appeared legal individually. Together, they revealed deliberate concealment. Then Emily discovered the final section. Grandma had hired an independent forensic accounting firm shortly before her death. Their report concluded that numerous marital assets had likely been hidden during Ryan's divorce preparation. Not stolen. Hidden. There was a crucial difference. Hidden assets could reopen legal proceedings. Emily sat down slowly. She wasn't looking at revenge. She was looking at evidence. Then she noticed an old laptop sitting on the desk. A note beside it read, "Final recording." She pressed play. Grandma Eleanor appeared on the screen. Older. Smiling warmly. "My dear Emily." The familiar voice immediately calmed her. "If you're watching this, then I was right about one thing. You finally needed this room." She walked slowly through the archive behind her. "I built this place because memories fade. Documents don't." She gently touched one of the file boxes. Truth has a strange habit. It may arrive slowly, but it almost always arrives. She smiled. "I never wanted you to spend your life fighting people. I wanted you to spend your life free from them." Her expression became serious. "If these records help you recover what belongs to you, good. But don't stop there. Build something better than what was taken." The screen faded. Emily remained silent for several minutes. Not because she felt angry, because she finally understood. Her grandmother hadn't prepared this archive to destroy Ryan. She built it to protect Emily. The following weeks moved quickly. Richard Lawson introduced Emily to one of the country's most respected forensic legal teams. Every document inside Eleanor's archive proved authentic. Every financial trail could be verified independently. The investigators uncovered even more evidence using the foundation Grandma had assembled. The court agreed to reopen the property settlement. Ryan remained confident at first. He insisted every transaction had been legitimate. Then the forensic accountants presented the complete financial timeline. Shell companies, undisclosed accounts, hidden ownership interests, properties quietly transferred before the divorce. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Several sworn statements directly contradicted documents Ryan himself had signed. Within months, the court issued a new ruling. Emily recovered a substantial portion of the assets that had been intentionally concealed. Ryan also faced additional civil penalties for failing to disclose significant marital property. Emily finally received justice. But she surprised everyone. She sold almost everything she recovered. Not because she had to, because she wanted a different future. She restored Cedar Ridge Cabin instead. The underground archive became the headquarters of the Eleanor Foundation. The organization provided free financial education, fraud prevention workshops, and legal guidance for people facing complicated divorces, elder financial abuse, and property disputes. Volunteer accountants, retired attorneys, financial investigators. Everyone donated time to help families avoid the mistakes that nearly destroyed Emily's life. The mountain cabin quietly became a place where frightened people found clarity. Years passed. One crisp autumn afternoon, Emily stood on the cabin porch watching visitors arrive for another financial education seminar. The gardens surrounding the cabin had returned to life. The old woodshed foundation had been carefully preserved as a historic entrance to the underground archive. Everything reflected Grandma Eleanor's quiet wisdom. A documentary filmmaker asked the same question everyone eventually asked. So, what exactly did you find beneath the cabin? Emily smiled. Most people expected dramatic answers. Hidden gold, jewels, cash. There were documents, records, evidence. The filmmaker looked surprised. That's all. Emily gently shook her head. No, there was something much more valuable. What was it? She looked toward the underground archive where volunteers were helping a young couple organize financial records after losing their home to fraud. Then she answered, "My grandmother taught me that truth is an investment." The filmmaker waited. It may take years to grow, but when you protect it, it eventually protects you. As the evening sun reflected across the peaceful mountain lake, Emily locked the archive for another day. Years earlier, she believed Ryan had taken everything that mattered. The house, the business, her security. What he never knew was that her grandmother had already prepared something infinitely stronger. Not a hidden fortune, not secret gold, but carefully preserved truth. Because money can disappear, property can change hands, even families can fall apart. But the truth, patiently protected by someone who loves you, can become the strongest foundation for a brand new beginning. And beneath the quiet mountain cabin, that priceless inheritance had been waiting for Emily all along.